Welcome to mini lesson 9.2, if-else conditions. What we're going to do in this mini lesson, we're going to look at using these blocks called if-else. They're real similar to the if-then blocks. However, these ones are a little different because we'll force the computer to make a decision whether if something is true, it'll do one action, and if it's not true, it's going to perform another action. And then you're going to look at another concept, and you've probably heard me this term being said in these videos before, is that we're going to nest our if-else conditions inside each other, which means we're going to place a block inside of a block, which you've already done, but now we're just going to do it to a little bit different capacity. And then also, I forgot to mention, we're going to show you some of the sprites with multiple functions inside them. Okay, so let's go look at this program and see what the end results will be. Okay, so this is the if-else conditions Scratch program right here, and on our stage, just so you know, we don't have anything being programmed on the stage. And we got three sprites here. We have our fish and we have two objects. We have object, which I probably should have called it object 1, but we'll just call it object for now since that's what I already did. Then our other object is called object 2. So our fish here has two functions inside of it, and its first function is going to be testing to see if it's touching the red color, which will be found here on this fish, and it's also going to be testing for the blue color. Did I say fish? I meant crab. Okay, and it's going to be testing for the blue color on object 2, which is the other crab. So the fish is testing in this function to see if it's doing any of these actions right here, if it's touching these colors right here. If it's true, it's going to say this message right here. And you'll notice that we have an if-else block, and then inside the else section we have another if-else block. Okay, we can do any number of combinations of if-else inside of each other. So we're forcing the computer to make a decision, say, if this is true, perform this action. If it's not true, come down here and look inside and see if this is true, and if this is true, perform this action, and if it's not, then perform this action. So it's just kind of branching out on how it's going to make a decision. Over here, this is nothing new. You just program this. We put it on the screen just so you can have the ability to move your fish around with the XY coordinates. And the fish is saying, where are all the crabs? And when it touches the red crab, it says, I'm touching the color red. Then come over here, it says, I'm touching the color blue. And when it's not touching those colors, the message defaults to where are the crabs, which is right down here. So whenever this is not true, we come test this. If this is not true, then we default down here to this action, which says where are the crabs. And again, if I move it over, it says I'm touching the color blue, which means this part is true. And it's true because if it's touching red, or excuse me, if it's not touching red, we test to see if it's touching blue. If that's true, then it says that message. And the same holds true if I move it back over to the red color. This is initially true. So the code doesn't even bother going down into this nested if-else section right here. And our crabs, you'll be glad to know they're not doing much of anything except just going to specific XY coordinates. So I could drag them anywhere on the screen I want to, press stop, press play, they'll go back to specific XY coordinates. Doesn't seem like a big deal, but it is a big deal when you start making your programs and your sprites don't go back to the same starting locations. You'll notice my fish right here, I don't have a starting location for my fish. So let's say my fish is all the way off on the edge of the screen. I can't see it. I press start. It starts off on the edge of the screen. Now I can easily move it back, no big deal. But if I was making a game out of this, that would not be a good way to start the program because you could have some users easily confused. For now, we're just trying to learn the main mentality of nesting if-else conditions. And that's pretty much it for this mini lesson. Let me go in there and see if there's any additional instructional material. Okay, I forgot the presentation did have some additional information. So I'll let you pause the video, go through and read this material. I've already briefly explained all this in layman terms, so here's a little bit more formal explanation of the if-else conditions and how they're going to be nested within each other. Here's a good example of the if condition, which just performs one action, and if this action is true, it's touching that color, it'll perform the turning right 15 degrees block. And over here on the if-else, we're saying if this is true, perform this action. If not, we force it to do this action right here, which is turning left 15 degrees. If this is not true. Here, if there's nothing true, we don't do anything. Okay. There's some scenarios where you want this type of block, just the if. Then there's other scenarios where you want the if else because you want an either or situation where it's going to perform one action or another. All right, nested if else conditions, and this is just a little bit about nesting. You'll notice how I put the blocks together. This is kind of a good strategy. You don't have to do this. However, sometimes the blocks get a little bit messy when you're placing them within each other. So I create the nested block outside of the other block, and I put all of its conditions in, and then I put in the whatever actions are for the if and the else sections, and then I take that block which is nested and then I place it inside the else condition. Sometimes in videos, you'll see that I can actually, or sometimes I'll just build out the infrastructure of the if else nesting, and then I'll fill it in with all the details. It's really hard to say. It just depends on how much coffee I drank to determine which method I use. There's none that are better than others, so I guess my advice is just put it together so it works, and then you're good to go. I've never seen a true and tried way that's, the de facto way of nesting blocks, and I don't think there really is one. So right here's another example of what it would look like once you are completed with that. Okay, you can actually make very large combinations of nested if-else blocks, and we will do that here in the near future. There's other ways around it, but sometimes it just makes sense to do it because it's kind of easy and convenient to keep sticking them inside of each other. All right, and that wraps it up for this video. Here's what you're going to need to get your program rolling. You're going to need the if-else conditions file, the stage. You won't do much with the stage, and then there's the sprites. Be careful when you change the colors of the stage, because here we're very specific on looking for this particular red, which has a specific RGB value that I don't know off the top of my head. And the same thing for the blue for this crab object too, because we're also looking for its blue color, which is has a very specific RGB value. If you don't know what RGB stands for, it means red, green, blue, and those are numbers inside the computer to help it determine what color to draw things. And that's how it actually detects the color collision. And if you change your stage color, you might accidentally have the same color red as the crab, or either crab inside there, and then the fish might detect those colors on the stage, even though it's supposed to be detecting only inside the crabs. Just be careful when you change those, and if it does happen, you'll notice that it's acting weird. It's because there's colors hidden inside the stage here. All right, well, good luck, and we'll see you in the next video.